So I took refuge as a lay Buddhist when I was 22, and shortly after I had this very strong aspiration to become a monastic. But at the same time, I had a 6-year contract with the Singapore government. They had paid for my tuition, and the contract was worth $500,000. So there was no getting out of that. And it turned out to be a good thing, because I had 6 years to think about this aspiration and what it meant in this life. And I talked to quite a number of different teachers asking for advice along the way, and I wanted to share with you their advice. I'm still thinking about that advice. Yeah. So the first person I spoke to was the Dharma teacher of the youth group that I went to in Singapore, a young monk himself who had given up a good career. And I went to him and said, I have this strong aspiration. How do you become a nun? And he said, oh, that's very virtuous, that's a good aspiration. Go everywhere in the temple and bow and make a request for your spiritual obstacles to be cleared and to meet a good spiritual friend. And I was so new to Buddhism, I was like, what's a good spiritual friend? And he said, the Chinese term is someone who knows virtue. Yeah, 善知识. That's a spiritual teacher who will guide you on the path. So I said, okay. I didn't really quite understand why that was so important. I just had a lot of faith and energy, so I went around bowing and making that request and would do that year after year. And I think now, 10 years later, being ordained, I see that actually that was very good advice, because finding a good spiritual teacher is the heart, I think, of the monastic path. You need someone to give you the precepts. This is not any old who. You can't go up to any old monastic and go, hey, will you give me the precepts? Right? This person has to have lived the precepts, know the precepts, be qualified and recognized by the rest of the Sangha that they are able to give precepts. Not only that, they have to want to give the precepts. They have to want to train other monastics, right, which is a difficult task, to say the least. They have to want to provide for them and to care for you until awakening. I mean, it's really hard to find someone like that. And it's also very difficult to meet someone and make that connection. So I really appreciated that piece of advice, that obstacles will get in the way, and mostly from your own mind, but to be very determined to meet a good teacher. But of course, at 22, I didn't understand any of this, so I was just going around bowing. And I also spoke to the first meditation teacher that I had back at college. I very excitedly, after taking refuge, wrote him and said, I took refuge, I have all these spiritual feelings, I want to become a nun. Thank you for connecting me to the Dharma. And he wrote back and said, yes, that's very nice. And he said, ordination is not a feeling. It's not about a spiritual feeling. He said, it is a logical decision that you come to after studying and practicing the Dharma for a while. And this is someone he had been a monk and then he disrobed too. And I'm not sure why, but he wound up getting a PhD and getting married and so forth. But to receive that advice, at first I was like, oh, what a wet blanket. Here I am on my spiritual high. But he's a smart guy. Clearly he's been around the block, so to speak. So I thought, okay, that makes sense. Think about it. Yeah, a logical decision. What does that mean? So I just went to Dharma class. I tried to, volunteer, be a good Buddhist. Okay, so that was and try my best to cut back on my way of life, to prepare for monastic life, right? That was my aspiration. So somewhere into this, about 4 years into this process, I went to Kopan Monastery where they were doing the November course, and I remember meeting Ken Rinpoche, Lama Lundrup, who was the previous abbot, and I felt he was really kind and just felt a good connection. So I thought, maybe I'll go ask for a personal interview and tell Ken Rinpoche this is my deepest aspiration. So I go and see Ken Rinpoche, make prostration, and say, Ken Rinpoche, I really want to become a nun. What should I do? 2 years away from finishing my contract. And then Ken Rinpoche says, meditate on the Four Noble Truths and generate strong renunciation. Now this shows you what an idiot I was at the time, because I was so disappointed by this advice. I was like, I already know the Four Noble Truths. I have renunciation. That's why I want to become a nun. So, yeah, that's really what I thought. I was like, I thought he was going to give me some practical advice, tell me who to talk to, what monastery to visit, take this exam. I already know the Four Noble Truths. So I decided after that I had to take things into my own hands. So I went monastery shopping the next year. The first place I came to was Sravasti Abbey, and I was shocked. It was nothing like what I had imagined monastic life would be, and I just completely freaked out, right? Because I had been nurturing this aspiration in my head, and then to come up front like, monastics work really hard, and you get to see your mind all the time, and it's not very pleasant. So I kind of freaked out and just went the opposite direction after that and decided, maybe I just want to write a novel. I'm going to quit my job and write a novel. I'm still going to practice the Dharma, but yeah, that's the plan. So I stayed in touch with Venerable Children, and so soon after this, I went back, decided maybe monastic life's not it, started dating again, met a very nice Buddhist man, decided that we were going to start a business together. So that was 1 year of my life. And then I went on retreat with Venerable, and then I could really see the contrast between 4 years where I had lived in celibacy and was trying very hard to move towards a monastic aspiration, and what my mind was like then, and what my mind was like in that 1 year, going back to everything familiar and just being filled with attachment, anger, jealousy, all the self-doubt again. So sitting there, I thought, maybe this is not it. This is not happiness. But I had created this situation, right, where I had gotten into this relationship. What was I going to do? So I wrote Venerable for advice, and I wanted to share with you the letter that she wrote back that I found so helpful, and maybe it will be helpful for some of you too. Yes, I have a folder called Letters from Venerable Children that I read from time to time when my mind is not in a good space. So it's not wasted effort, Venerable. So Venerable says, "We've talked before about your wanting to please everyone and not have anyone be upset with you or not like you. So you do what the people around you want you to do so that you'll receive praise and approval. In the process, Ruby, that was my lay name, has gotten lost. She doesn't know what she wants because she's always focusing outside herself, trying to adjust her actions to please the people around her. You need to look inside and figure out what you want in life. Not what is fair or unfair to your boyfriend or anyone else. What do you want to do with your life? What is important and meaningful to you? When you die, what kind of life do you want to have lived? It's not going to be any easier to break up with your boyfriend or to leave the project in a year." All right, this is because I had this great idea that I was going to set a deadline and, break up in 1 year, but we would still have that year together. Venerable's like, "You set a deadline for breaking up. Nice try." So she said, "If you love him and want to stay with him and do the project, then do that. But do it because with your whole heart, because you want to do it, because it will bring meaning and purpose to your life. Don't do it just to please him. That's being unfair to him. Forget about your plans for this year and the next. Forget about planning your life out. That is not the important issue. Stop trying to arrange your life to please others. Forget about plans and navigating your life through others' wants and expectations. That's all distraction. Instead, look inside and get to know Ruby. What is important to Ruby in her heart of hearts? What is in your heart? What do you want? Forget about everyone else and see what is in your heart. What is your dream? What will you find fulfilling? Focus on figuring out what you want. Plans, etc. will fall into place naturally after you know what is in your heart of hearts. Take all the time you need to figure out what it is that you want and what you can do joyfully with your whole heart. Don't make any decisions until you know with clarity what your dream is." This email changed my life, I would say, because it was the first time someone gave me that space. And really that's what all the other teachers were trying to say, right? That it's about your deep motivation, what really matters to you in your heart. So I took time out to think deeply about that, and this was the outcome, yes. And it was curious that after I ordained, people started to ask me things like, "What is your plan? What is your plan as a monastic?" And very well-meaningly, they also offered me many ideas about what my plan should be, including, "Do you want to start a group in Singapore? No. Do you want to work for the Buddhist college? No. Do you want to go and study at Institute of Buddhist Dialectics? No. Do you want to be a translator in Taiwan? No." But I mean, well-meaning, yeah. But I was really quite surprised. Like, I'm quite clear what my plan is. I had some doubt about it, but I will say, my plan is just to purify my mind, serve my teacher, and to die peacefully. I think that's good enough for now in this life.